First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy, the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, and everyone here today for the opportunity to talk about this, why we must receive the Tao. Okay. Let's see. Oh, whoops. Shoot. All right. Well, okay. Okay, so yeah, why should I, people ask, why should I receive the Tao or seek the Tao? Actually, I mean, the Chinese Chu Tao, that word Chu means to seek. You can say it's to seek or to request the Tao. But today we say receive the Tao. I mean, because most people, they don't know to seek the Tao, right? They don't know to look for it. So we have to bring them in and say, oh, you want to receive the Tao instead. Okay. So, but anyways, the question, you can say the first question is people might ask as well, you say receive the Tao. Well, what is Tao? And what does it mean to receive the Tao, right? So these are questions that we encounter. It says, or people might say, oh yeah, I'm a good person. I don't do anything bad, right? So why do I have to receive the Tao? I believe Transmitter Lin had talked, this was one of the questions in the in the Answers to the Truth that Transmitter Lin, I think, went over in one of the classes that was on Sunday. But okay, so you get people who ask this, right? And then, or they're practicing, they're in the religion, okay, and so they can be have a strong faith in the religion, and so why they ask, why do I have to receive the Tao? I mean, I'm already practicing my religion, and all that. So that's also a common question. Now, then you have others who are a little bit more. Now, so these people maybe, they have, like these two here. These people probably can be convinced or persuaded, right, to receive the Tao potentially. But there are other conditions, of course, that have to be met. But potentially these guys, these people can be persuaded. Okay. However, then you have the people who say, oh, my religion doesn't recognize any other saviors, right? So, we have our own savior, and in fact, you have to believe in ours savior in order to be saved. So these are harder to convince or persuade, and many times it's just not worth it. You can't, you shouldn't argue with them. It's just not going to work. So these are people who probably won't, or say, oh, my religion doesn't allow me to bow down to anyone except God, or they see the statues up there on the altar and they say, well, there's idol worship, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so they are kind of stuck on forms, right? They see the forms and they don't know you can say the principle or the truth behind what it is. I mean, even the religion, okay, the teachings, they don't really understand that truth. Okay, so that's why, and then so, they're all they know is the forms, and therefore, when you're stuck on those forms, then yeah, you're going to be very exclusive and say, oh, it's only my religion or whatever, my faith, my practice that's true, and no one else. So anyways, these are, you'll encounter all sorts, and of course, a lot of these people, they won't, receive the Tao, right? In fact, yeah, I mean, so if you look at the world today, obviously, the number of people who receive the Tao is, I don't know, it's probably maybe let's see, let's say it's 7 billion. What's 1% of that? That would be like 70 million. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think throughout the world. Well, there's probably more. It's probably a couple percent, a few percent, maybe at most, right now. So that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad. But it just means that people, sentient beings, well, people in general are, you can say, ignorant, right? This is where ignorance comes in. It's like they don't know the truth, okay? People don't know the truth. They don't know to look for that truth, right? Okay. Yeah. Or, they in terms of the forms, right? It's stuck on the form. So like in the religious practices, yeah, they think, well, this is the way, right? Because let's say from Buddha's time, this is how they did it. This is how they practice it. This is how he achieved enlightenment, and therefore they have to do it the same way. The thing is, all forms change, right? They can change, and the form itself is not constant, is not eternal. I mean, the form itself is not the truth, right? So therefore it can change. The forms can change, just like, so the practice in what we call the red era is, yeah, sure, you have to kind of become like a monk or a nun, to cultivate yourself outside of society, away from society. Okay, so that was the practice back then, but a practice can change, right? The only thing that doesn't change is the truth and the principles based on that truth. Okay, so those things don't change, but everything else can change, right? So, of course, then these people, they're not necessarily, again, if they're not at that level, they won't understand that, they won't get it. Okay, so, yeah, and then the same thing, like receiving the Tao, the way it's done. Okay, now, like the ceremony, like when we go through the Tao receiving ceremony today, that's not the way it was done before. Okay, in the red era, people receiving the Tao, it's not like that. It wasn't like that. Okay, so the stories of how like the sixth patriarch received the Tao, it's quite simple, right? Or how Buddha basically transmitted the Tao to Mahakasyapa, the first patriarch in Buddhism, right? That was completely formless. Okay, so it's different. That can change. So yeah, we shouldn't. Again, this is like a common theme, and when we're talking about the Tao, is there's no true form. Okay, these forms aren't true. Okay, so we shouldn't get stuck on the forms. All right. Anyways, all right, back to this. Oh no, it's not gonna be like this. All right. Okay, so answering that first question, right? So what is Dao? Basically, we've talked about this before. Dao, on one level, which we're talking about, the essence is the origin, or you can say, the source of everything. It is nature, right? Capital N, nature. It is all of nature. Right? It's also the basis for all existence. Yeah. And so this basis for all existence, right? Everything comes from this Tao, right? So now obviously when we say we're receiving the Tao, we're not receiving this, okay? Because that doesn't make sense. This is something, okay? And we're not getting this, all right? This is just saying this is one aspect of Tao, okay? The kind of like the overall, the highest level. Now, it is also, in Chinese you say 真空妙有, okay? So this is part of this trying to describe that essence, right? Sunyata, we can say void and function, or emptiness and function. Right, that's basically these two. The 真空 is the true emptiness, or maybe we say void, and then 妙有 is there's a function, okay? It's a marvelous function, or mystical function. And well, yo, I mean, we say function, but there's something, okay? There's something, some essence, okay? Something there, right? Or Buddha says, it's the true form of the formless, okay? So this is All right, so this is at the kind of the big picture, right, of Tao, of what it is. And also in the Bible, right, in the book of John, right, in the beginning was the Word, or you can say Tao, and the Word, or Dao, was with God, and the Word was God. Okay, so that's basically saying this essence and function. Okay, so same thing. So the religions, they all originally, anyways, they all talk about the Tao, right? But in obviously using different words, different ways, right? So so if you get stuck on any particular wording, or the way it's said, then that's kind of missing the essence, missing the truth behind it, right? So so in the Tao, we understand this. We understand that it's not just forms, right? The words are forms. It's not just the forms, but there is something else, right? The forms come from the function of that void or emptiness. Okay, so but we don't see that. That's the problem in religions. They don't see that origin. Okay, this essence, this part of it. And then so the other aspects, so it's basically essence and function, the way. I'll call it the way. So sometimes, yeah, you say the Tao, it is the way. Okay. And what does that mean? It's principles. Oh, shoot. I made a mistake here. This shouldn't be principles and principles. But anyways, it's, yeah, it's the principles. And basically the principles of, there are principles everywhere. Okay. So principles of nature, right? We call them like the laws of nature. The forces of nature. Okay, these are, you can say the function, or the I want to say action, or of the Tao. Okay, when the Tao is in motion, right? This essence, this part is, you can say, the Tao in stillness. Okay, this is it's the essence. But the Tao, it's also in motion, which means, or there's movement, or action, and that goes. Then they follow principles. Okay, now so yeah, we see it all throughout the whole universe. Basically, is based on these certain laws, and scientists have figured out most of them. They haven't figured out I mean, they have find out the four forces in nature, but they're trying to unify that into a single unified field theory, grand unified field theory. Okay, but anyways, they haven't gotten there yet. But that the idea is that maybe if they understood all that, figured that out, then they can really understand nature, understand all phenomena in the nature. But anyways, actually, the I Ching kind of describes is a way to describe all these all of nature too. Okay, all right. And then there's so this first one is principles, is kind of like in terms of the, I guess, the inanimate, I don't know, the non-life. Okay, so the second one is principles of humanity. Okay, specifically to humans, but all life, they have their principles as well. But humans in particular have certain principles that is basically the Tao. Okay, the principles of the Tao, and we can call them like virtues. All right, like the 8 virtues. Or we could say moral integrity, or maybe it's the conscience. Well, the conscience, yeah, I mean, it kind of implements those those follows those principles. So these principles, basically, if we follow right these principles, then they can they're kind of like the guidance, okay, for us to establish our true destiny. Okay, so we talked about, there was a topic earlier about knowing and fulfilling our destiny, right? So ultimately, that's what it leads to. And it's basically, there's one characteristic of these principles, though, actually all of these principles, is that when it's put into practice, right, you can say that it's what we can call harmony. Okay, so there is harmony. So like in the universe, throughout in the physical world, all these principles, all these laws of nature at work, when they are at work, everything is in harmony, right? Everything is working as they should. Okay. When you don't have these principles, let's say it's just there is no principle. Actually, in nature, the principles are always there. Okay, that won't. So there is always, you can say, there is always harmony in nature, right? The harmony between the yin and yang, harmony between the 5 elements, all harmony between all the forms. Okay, through these various, laws, what we call the laws and forces. Okay. However, humans, yes, if we follow these principles, then we are also in harmony. But if we violate these principles, go against these principles, then basically you have chaos. Okay, you have the world we have today. All right, where there's killing, there's fighting, there's war, everything. Okay, so that's because humans are not following these Dao principles. Okay, these are innate. Okay, this is not something that we necessarily have to learn these principles in school, right? We don't need to learn these principles. They are innate. Okay, they are within us. Okay, we already have them. You can say that they can come from our conscience, or but we already have it. All right, so it's a question of whether we realize it and we understand it, and then we follow it and practice it. Okay, so only when we practice it, then we have harmony. We can create harmony. Okay, so I've said in the past that the Tao in action, in motion, is harmony. Okay, so the Tao, when it's implemented and manifested, it's harmony. Okay, that's an important thing to realize. And so, the world is the way it is because, there is no harmony in the world because, people are no longer following these principles, not following their conscience. And it's only when, we achieve the purpose of Tao, right? We talked about that too, to create this world of great harmony. Okay, and that world can only have people who are cultivating the Tao, following these principles, right? Okay. Okay, so what does it mean to receive the Tao? Right, to receive Tao is a blessing, or that's what we say. We say it's a blessing. Why do we say it's a blessing? Because we say, to receive Tao, people don't kind of understand that. But when we say receive a Tao blessing, do you want to receive the Tao blessing? People hear blessing and they say, yeah, why not, man? Blessing's good, right? I want a blessing. So, but, when we receive or to want to get this Tao blessing, we have to, obviously there's certain conditions that have to be met, right? One of which is that we have to offer, and I would say a token of sincerity and appreciation. So, and that's called the merit fee. Okay. So, and, some people, they just, that becomes an obstacle, and that's it won't, they won't they won't do it. Okay, so the other thing, okay, and then but most people probably it's fine. All right. The other thing is we have to make 10 great vows. Okay, so and then again we've talked about that in another topic. 10 great vows. Of course, we don't typically explain to them that that's what they have to do. But yeah, we're really supposed to explain that, okay? Because some people, I mean, vows are serious, right? They're serious. They should be serious, and we should take them seriously, and we should be sincere in making those vows, right? So really, we are supposed to explain it a little bit in the beginning, right? Okay, so once we go through that ceremony, see the Tao. Okay, so we say, yeah, we burned that document, right? The dragon document, that dragon scroll document, right? And that goes to that removes our name from the underworld. Or you can say remove it from the authority of the underworld. So the underworld, the Yama, the King Yama, who's in charge down there, he is no longer in charge of us, you can say our soul after we die. So then our name is actually registered in heaven, or we say absolute heaven or eternal heaven. Okay, so this is, and so therefore we report our soul. Our soul reports to heaven after we die. And then again, and then they'll check on things like the three treasures, things like that. Okay, our merits, virtues, to see if we are qualified to enter. So, all right, and then we also received the Dharma, the three treasures, basically. Okay, the three treasures. That's something that's passed down to, or transmitted to the people who are seeking the Tao, receiving the Tao. Okay. Again, this is also where you can see that over the ages, right, during the different time periods, the three treasures also change. Well, except for the first treasure, of course, but the other two, because they involve forms, they also change, right? So again, the theme of the forms are always changing, and so those aren't the real truth. Okay. I mean, so we say, so when you receive the three treasures, we open up that heavenly portal, first treasure, okay. The enlightened master, our holy teacher, Jigong, okay, in our case, we say this Jigong living Buddha, is pointing out, I mean, he's the one who opens up our heavenly portal and is pointing out our true nature, or our true self. Now that's the Buddha that's within. Okay, the Buddha within. It's not the Buddha, the statue that's outside. Okay, it's not the Buddha outside. Talking about the Buddha within. And so we have to realize that, yeah, it's trying to let us know that we are all Buddhas, or, well, say were, or will be, but yeah, we are, because we have the Buddha nature, okay, that true nature, that's true self. Okay, so that is something else that lets us know, and it opens the door and the path to nirvana, okay, which is basically the end of suffering through the cycle of reincarnation. Okay, so that is, so you can say right here already, this is very important to receive the Dharma, the three treasures, right? And if we don't open this door, this portal, we cannot attain nirvana. Okay. And okay, also, basically, we need to know and learn, right, and follow, or to practice and cultivate the way. Okay, so this is what we were just saying earlier about those principles. Okay, following those Tao principles, practicing those Dao principles, cultivating them, right? Those virtues. And that is the third. So this is, actually, this is like the three treasures involves, right? All three, right? So basically knowing the essence, right? Pointing out that essence within us. And then the second treasure is the Dharma, the method, the way, okay? And then the third is the actual practice of it, okay? So that's, the three treasures is not just knowledge, right? It's not knowledge. I mean, it's if we think of it as knowledge, then that's not really, we don't understand it, okay? So this knowledge, just like with anything, there's a meaning behind it and there's a purpose. So we have to know what it means, and that third treasure basically means the practice, okay, of it, right? So the Tao, just like the Tao, right? The Tao has essence and function, right? When we receive the Tao, okay, so you can say, oh, it's pointing out our essence, but what about the function? So we have to put it into action, right? This Tao, we have to put it into action, right? Follow the way, practice the way, okay? So it's the two go together, right? That's the harmony of things, the oneness of things, right? Oneness of essence and function. Oneness, that's what you have to achieve Tao, right? If you're just doing one or the other, then that's not the Tao. That's incomplete, right? So, okay, and then in that way you can achieve, that's basically the internal, you can say the internal harmony, having harmonized essence and function, or maybe harmony is not really the right word, but it's the oneness, the unity of that. Okay, so because a lot of people, they receive the Tao, okay, so kind of point out to them, but they don't really get it. They still don't get it, and they don't practice, right? They don't learn. They don't bother to learn anymore about it, and they don't practice it. They don't cultivate. So, and that ultimately will lead to, well, I mean, it won't lead to nirvana. Okay, even though that door is open, it depends on what they do. If they start doing bad stuff, then potentially they can't even return to that absolute or eternal heaven, not even for a short time. Okay, so so yeah, we need the other stuff. Okay, the action. All right. So besides receiving the Tao, we must cultivate. That's why we have to learn. That's why we have the classes, right? And we have to learn it, study, to practice, and to cultivate, right? Okay. All right. So now these words were. This is part of a poem that this Emperor Sunzi wrote, and basically Emperor Sunzi, he was an emperor in the mid 1600s in the Qing dynasty. I think his reign didn't last too long, but basically he gave up. He gave up his reign to actually become a monk. Okay, so because basically, this is part of what he wrote. I mean, the poem is a lot longer, and this is only some of a few lines from that poem. It says, I come to the world in ignorance and leave the world confused. Right, this is a life lived in vain. Right, after all, I mean, if we come to the world, without knowing why we're here, and then in the end, when we leave this world, right, we're still confused. We still don't know the purpose. Right, so that's a life that's lived in vain, right? So, who was I before I was born, right? So, and who am I after I am born, right? So there is, before this life, who was I? I mean, and after I die, who am I going to be, right? I mean, it's not like our consciousness exists only when we are comes into into being when we are born, and then when we die, that consciousness disappears. Now, maybe some people believe that, I guess, but generally there is a continuity of that consciousness. It exists, okay, before and after, right? So he says thinking, it says I know who I am when I grow up, or thinking I know who I am when I grow up, but who am I when I am asleep or actually die? I mean, the words here, really mean. If you look it up, it says sleep, but it could mean to die as well. Close your eyes and, but yeah. So we think we grow up, right, and we know we have a name. Maybe I have not just the name, my personal name, but like a name that I've made for myself, a reputation, status, right, or authority, power, right, wealth, all these things. That's who. Then we think that, oh yeah, that's who I am. But then in the end, is that really me? Okay, so and then so he says it is better not to come and not to go, right? Not to be born and not to die. So, but most people, they're happy to come but sad to go, right? They're happy to be born, to be in this world, but then it's a sad time when they have to leave. Now, so this emperor is, he's asking this important, interesting questions that not too many people ask, right? In history, Buddha, obviously he asked these questions. Now the Buddha, of course, he became enlightened. Now I don't know if this Emperor Sun Tzu became enlightened after he started cultivating, but anyways, yeah, and this is late, right? This is 1600s, and usually, they're probably, I don't know, there are any after him, or not many after him, who actually kind of have these type of questions about themselves and about what is basically asking, what's the purpose of life, and who am I really? Okay. Okay, now, of course, before him, like 1,000 years before, you had the sixth patriarch also kind of there. All right, but anyways, actually, this just a little note here. This part of this, because there was I don't know if he was inspired by the 27th patriarch of Buddhism, Prajnatara, because Prajnatara said, basically, he asked this question, who was I before I was born and who am I after I'm born, right? He told that to, basically to the future Bodhidharma, okay? And that's what got Bodhidharma thinking about life, what it means, and eventually to become the 28th patriarch, okay? So, but anyways, so yeah, so Emperor Sun Tzu was seeking the truth about life, about who he is, right? But we can only know, this answer through the Tao, right? Through knowing that ultimate truth, the Tao. Because, a lot of people, they're in religion, they follow the religions, but they don't necessarily get that answer, right? Now, yeah, okay. Whoops. Oh, shoot. Messed up. All right. Skip that. All right. So Zhuangzi, says, I did not wish to be born, yet suddenly I was born. I do not wish to die, yet death arrives suddenly. Okay. So again, similar question, but basically, hey, why why am I here? That's the question. Why am I here? I didn't ask to be born, and I didn't. I want to keep living if I'm still here. I don't want to die. So this is the common question. But actually, you say, "Oh, I didn't ask to be born." Well, actually, yeah, this is where karma comes in, right? It's because of karma that we're here, and you know, so that's why karma is so important. Understanding karma. If we understand karma, then it answers this question, at least the question of well, actually, it answers all the questions. Yeah. uh, so that's very important, right? And if we don't accept causality and karma, then we are just doomed to go through this cycle of birth and death continuously, until we awaken, realize, and start asking these questions. Okay. And Mencius says, birth and death is the great matter of life, right? So if you think about it, I mean, most people, common person would think, well, what they do in life, what happens to them in life, that's the most important thing. That's the greatest thing. But actually, birth and death. Without birth, you wouldn't even have this life, right? So that is very significant. And also the death, where it comes to an end, these are the most important things. And Dao addresses this. Okay, so that's what Dao is about: is to address this. You can say question or problem, if you will, of birth and death. All right, and now of course there's the problem is obviously these are you can say two endpoints, kind of. I mean, of course it's a cycle, but we can view it as endpoints to our current life. But during that life, we have the 8 sufferings that we talked about before: birth, aging, sickness, and death, and also unfulfilled desires or wants, separated from loved ones, or the things that we like and can't live without, right? Contact with those we dislike, or the things that we dislike. The illusion or delusion created by the 5 skandhas, the whole thing about, and that's what gives us attachments and desires in this world. Okay, so obviously, okay, yeah, birth and death, this is the most important thing, and that's why we need to know the Tao, receive the Tao, to understand that. But then the next most important thing is what we do between birth and death, right? So obviously, between birth and death, we should receive the Tao and understand the Tao, understand ourselves, discover our true self, right? The Buddha within, so that we can do the right things. When we do the right things in life, then when death comes, it won't matter, because death will not then lead to the next birth, right? We will have transcended, okay, upon death, and therefore we would not be afraid of death, right? So that's important. Now, so sentient beings, right, are born in the world without knowing why, and they suffer without knowing why, and then they die without knowing why. Okay, so the next thing they know, they are either suffering in the underworld, okay, or reborn in another life to repeat the cycle, right? So sentient beings believe suffering to be happiness, right? So that's a problem. It's that inverted view, right? Sentient beings. I mean, people say, well, yeah, hey, life, it's not all suffering. Sure. I mean, it's there's a lot of, you can say, yeah, happy moments. There are a lot of things to look forward to in life, to do in life. But that's kind of a short-sighted view of things, right? So if you look at the big picture of things, when what Buddhas look at, enlightened beings look at the big picture, and they see that there's a cycle: birth, death, and rebirth, right? This cycle, continuous cycle. And therefore, they see that that is suffering. If we are stuck in that cycle and can't get out, right? And we don't know how to get out because we're always creating karma, right? We don't know not to create karma, and therefore we're going to be stuck in that cycle, right? So that is what suffering means, okay? It's not the suffering that we talk about. Yeah, I mean, we talk about suffering. Oh, I get sick or something happened to me, and that's suffering. But that's not true suffering, okay? That's only temporary, right? The true suffering is this endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, okay? And then plus all these little sufferings during life, okay? So that this is receiving Dao, learning about the Dao, learning about all these principles, learning about everything here that we talk about, lets us kind of hopefully enlightens us a little bit, awakens up more to the truth, to understanding life and and that it is suffering. Okay, so that and then we can do something about it to transcend. Okay. Also, because sentient beings, they are short-sighted. They seek instant gratification, right? But now, instant gratification, right? I'll say, yeah, they want to be, pleasure in the moment. Okay, they want to feel good in the moment. Actually, this is not the same as when we say in the moment, right? In the moment is completely different, right? That's not instant gratification. Okay, in the moment, there's no desire, there's no attachments, none of that. Okay, so it's not the same thing, right? Because we say to live in the moment, right? So but that's not the same thing. We're not that's not what people are talking about when they say instant gratification. So that's why Buddha calls this world, or the life, sentient life, sentient beings living in this bitter sea of suffering, right? And that sentient beings, they're all inverted, right? They have inverted views and they do inverted things. Okay, so if only they believed in causality and karma. So that's why Buddha, one of his first teachings is about causality, right? And karma. So because that's just so important. That's just you can say that's part of like the Four Noble Truths, kind of hint at that. Kind of like a big picture of that. That yeah, that's the cause, okay, of all this, of all these problems. Okay. All right. So now to receive the Tao, or we say sometimes to be ferried. Okay, so this comes from Buddha, right? It's talking about the three conditions to be ferried. We've talked about these before. People have to have that affinity, whether it's with the Buddha or whatever, affinity to the Tao to be able to receive the Tao or to be ferried, right? They must believe. Okay, so what do they have to believe in or have that faith in? Is, well, first of all, that there is something besides this material self. Okay, there is might say a soul, but there ultimately there's this essence, this Buddha nature. Okay, and also believe in some of these concepts or principles, right, of causality, for example, karma, right? That is one of the fundamental ones that we must believe, must be able to accept that. If we can't, we're not going to get very far in the cultivation, because then we're going to just do things, any which way. That's going to create karma, and even though we don't believe it, it's still going to we're still bound by it. All right, and we must be willing to take vows. Okay, so that's the third one. Now that's why when we do receive the Tao, we do make those vows, 10 great vows, right? It's not like we don't make any vows, right? We have to do that, right? And then there's also the four difficulties of receiving Tao. So this is, you have to first have a human life, of course. Animals, okay, or other spirit forms, life forms, cannot receive the Tao, right? So humans are special in that sense, okay. But besides being a human, yeah, if you think about it, the world, okay, so even though we have a lot of human beings right now, like over 7 billion, maybe going on 8 billion, but there are a lot more animals in the world. And who knows how many countless spiritual beings there are. I don't know. Okay, so, and they can't really, none of them can receive the Tao, right? So being a human is very special. Now, the other thing, besides that, then we have to be born in a time and place where the Tao is available. So if we are born, 100 years ago or before, it would have been very difficult because the Tao was not available in most places, right? And today we are very lucky because during this time, since, let's say around 1920 or so, and onward, so it's been like about 100 years of the Tao being openly, kind of available in many places, right? So if we're born and living in this time, then we are you can say we're lucky. We have that affinity, okay, that certain, one part of the affinity to be where the Tao is available. However, then there's a further difficulty in that, yeah, even though the Tao is available now, the Tao has been spread, to at least, I don't know, I think 80, 90 countries around the world. But of course, it's, in some places, maybe it's just like one little place. Just like in the U.S., I would say, I mean, it's not that very widespread either. So even though we are in a time and place where the Tao is available, we may not hear about it, right? So that's why, there's we can go pioneer the Tao in these places, right, where the Tao isn't there and people haven't heard about the Tao. And then on top of that, we may be able to hear about the Tao, but unless there is an enlightened master to transmit that Tao to us, then we're still out of luck. Okay, so it's kind of like going from the broadest to the more specific condition here, and this is the hardest one. Now, back in the time of the Red Era, more than 100 years ago, then it was very difficult. There was only one master, basically, one enlightened master, right? And in the whole world, basically, give or take. But so how many people can encounter that to meet with such an enlightened master? Not, only a handful, right? Today, yeah, we have, what we call transmitting masters, okay, and they represent the enlightened master, holy teacher, Jigong Living Buddha, right? So, and there are a few thousand, at least a few thousand of them throughout the world. So it's more likely to be able to encounter, meet with one of them today, right? But still, they're not everywhere, and the Tao is not everywhere, and so not everyone can receive the Tao. So now, ultimately, right, being able to receive the Tao is due to meeting the prerequisites of having the affinity, right, and also, our ancestors having virtue, and also we say, to have cultivated in previous lives, at least 3 lifetimes, okay, that we have built up enough, I guess, maybe virtue or merit, and affinity to be able to receive the Tao. Because otherwise, we see a lot of people, could be family members, friends, colleagues, who are just unwilling to receive the Tao, right? I mean, that's probably goes for 90% or more of the people that we try to, bring to receive the Tao. It's like, well, you know, that most people are just not ready for it, I guess. They don't meet those conditions. So there's a saying that, no matter how heavy the rain, how heavy the rains are, right? It will not benefit the grass that has no roots, right? I mean, right? The grass has to have roots to absorb the water from the rain. So, in the same way, although the Buddha's door is wide open, but those who do not have the affinity cannot be ferried, right? So even though we have, I mean, the Tao is available in lots of places. We have the temples. We have these classes. It's on, if you go on YouTube or online somewhere, there are lots of things, videos about the Tao. Even including our own, classes that we do. But how many people actually, try to seek it, right? Are looking for it, right? They're not. Or even if they see it, they don't have the interest. Okay, so that's kind of sad. I mean, but the ultimately it's that affinity is not quite there. They don't have sufficient affinity to be able to receive the Tao. Okay. Let's see. Oh, shoot. All right. So receiving Tao and cultivating Tao is a prerequisite for. Okay, so so we did mention that we have to receive the Tao, and then we also have to cultivate, right? You can't do just receive the Tao and not cultivate, and that's insufficient because we don't have. Again, this is the problem of karma, because of karma. Okay, that we have to cultivate to have merits to offset our karma, okay, and also, of course, establish our virtues, and also those who like practice, right? I mean, you could say cultivating now, but kind of practicing, like in religions, they are also cultivating, but they haven't received the Tao, and that's not enough either. Okay, so that will end up, they would have, I guess you can say, good fortune, but it's not enough to, where does it go? Basically, change their. Okay, so to change one's. This is one of the reasons. All right. I mean, I guess that we say, right, when you see the Tao, that it can change our lives and basically our karmic fate. Okay, for most people, they're bound by the karmic fate, right? That's it's kind of it's kind of fixed. Okay, I mean, it can be changed a little bit, but for the most part, it's kind of set because people don't know how to change it, right? So when we see the Tao, we learn how, and not only that, because we perform well. Let's see, because these things here, right? We nurture, we establish our virtues, we perform merits, and we take vows, right? We make vows to do good deeds, right? To help sentient beings, to benefit others, and these things can offset or even or overcome the karmic debts that we may have. Okay, and we can also, we say that you can escape from disasters and calamities, and that kind of follows from this one. When we change our lives, so karmic fate would probably, there's a lot of things that there are disasters or calamities that are due to our karma, and so by cultivating, performing merits, practice all that, developing our virtues, and also making those vows, these are things that can change that and then help us to escape from disaster and calamities, right? These things won't happen to us. It's sometimes there could be an element of I guess I don't say randomness, but chance. Most things are due to karma, okay, but sometimes maybe you can be caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? Karma is basically when we are in the right place at the right time and it was meant to be, right? And something happened. But sometimes that may not be the case, okay? But that's, I would say, it's pretty rare that it's not the case, that it's not karma, okay? So, and then in those cases, you could say it's like a chance being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But again, if we cultivate that, if we, we're doing all these things and we're sincere cultivator, then we can escape those. All right, that won't happen to us. Those misfortunes. Another thing is when we receive the Tao and we are also cultivating, then we can also benefit our ancestors and descendants. All right, so this was not the case before, right? This is only during the White Era that there's something special here. Now, in the past, if people did cultivate, right, they performed merits, they had the virtues, they did all that good stuff, but they didn't receive the Tao. I mean, yes, they will definitely benefit their descendants, okay, right? But that's what we call karmic. They get some karmic reward, right? Or there's a karmic blessing. But actually, when we say this benefits ancestors and descendants, yeah, I mean that's because literally that's what's here. But it's talking about the past life, our past life ancestors and descendants. Okay, so, but the benefit that they get from us when we receive the Tao and cultivate, right? I think we talked about this in one of the topics before, where if we do that, then if they are in the underworld, right? If they, because they're already deceased, that if they're still in the underworld, they don't have to suffer, right? They can listen to the Dharma. They can listen to Siddhigarbha Buddha teach the Dharma. So this is obviously it's a great benefit to them. Okay, and if we continue to cultivate and to progress, to advance, right? And we're doing more, we're ferrying a lot of people, and we're also teaching, right? Guiding, and we do a lot, for the Tao, the temple, do a lot for the Tao community. I mean, in all sorts of ways, whether it's financial, putting in time and effort and material things, etc. Then they especially if we take the vows for like I said, if we advance, so like becoming maybe a lecturer or a transmitting master, then if in the end, if we are able to, right, to then, we didn't do anything bad and all that stuff, and we can return to the absolute or eternal heaven, then they will also be able to follow us. Okay, but so that's the special thing about it, about this Tao, right? Receiving the Tao and then cultivating. All right. And because this is all because in this White Era we have this universal salvation of the three realms, because in the spiritual realm, that's one of the realms that they can be also attain this salvation, right? But again, we have to put in the effort, we have to put in the work, to achieve that, to truly benefit them in that way. All right, completely, or yeah. And then, this is really the true reason to transcend the cycle of birth and death, right? This is what receiving Tao and then cultivating Tao gives us, if you will, and this is the true benefit, or this is what we're actually looking for. yeah, no more suffering, right? No more birth, death, rebirth, endless cycle, right? So if we can do that, if we can do this well, cultivate well in this life, that could be the end of this cycle for us. Now, a holy teacher does say that, okay, so he can only guarantee us, 10,800 years in heaven right now, at least, okay, so, but how much longer we can stay up there depends on our merits and virtue, okay, so that's why we should do our best to really establish those virtues and perform those merits so that we can stay longer. Because again, even though we say, yeah, that's eternal heaven, we will, if we don't have sufficient amounts, or if not all of our debts were paid off, then we'll have to come back. At least, well, it'll be, maybe in the next, well, it'll be in the next cycle. Okay, so the world cycle, the Dao cycle, the world. So, or you might call that a little kalpa, the next kalpa. Okay, so but at least we won't, we can transcend at least for not too short amount of time, 10,800 years. Okay, so that's pretty good. But we have to continue to cultivate, right? What happened to okay, yeah. So this is there's that topic that I talk about. This is to realize our true destiny. Really, is to get to transcend. Okay, that was the true destiny of this in this life. So we have to understand what life is about, and to know what we're supposed to do in life to get there. I think. Oh, okay, yeah. This is just a brief. Okay, so, people who have not yet received the Tao, right? They can do good deeds and bad deeds, but they result in karmic reward and retribution dispensed over several lifetimes. Okay, so these good deeds don't really offset or cancel out the bad deeds, or basically you have both. You have two ledgers, right? You have one that records your merits, your good deeds, and your bad deeds, the demerits, if you will. Okay, but they are, you get the karmic rewards for the merit, the good deeds, and you get karmic retributions for the bad things. So they both play out. So sometimes we see people. It's like, wow, this person is very evil, and yet he's living the good life, right? I mean, he's wealthy. He made, I don't know, maybe he somehow he made a fortune, and yet it's an evil person. But that's because he had good deeds in past lives, and it's still, he hasn't used it up, right? There's the reward, because we're supposed to get all, right? It's not, and we have to basically use up that reward. Okay, so if the reward is not used up, then he'll still be getting that reward, and then once that's done, then the retributions appear. Okay, so and then but the most important thing is, if we don't receive the Tao, we can't transcend cycle of birth and death, and we can't benefit our ancestors, right, descendants, right? But so after receiving the Tao, it's a different story, right? Merit from good, and we say really unmotivated deeds. Okay, so these, for most people, it's a lot of it is motivated, but when we say unmotivated, wu wei, right, the just unbiased, without ego, without conditions, right? It's just doing good deeds without seeking anything in return or benefit. Okay, then that's true merit. Okay, that becomes true merit. And of course, having sincere vows and also repentance and gratitude, right? So these, remember, we talk about these things too. That is very important. They can reduce or eliminate our karmic debts, right? So because our having received the Tao, our enlightened master, holy teacher, right? He can negotiate on our behalf with those karmic creditors or, karmic debt collectors and say, hey, this person, he's cultivating, he has some merits, and he can offer some merits. Actually, we should sometimes, if we know that we have certain maybe debts, things that we did wrong, like maybe we killed, well, killed an animal, right, or killed insects or whatever, then we should ask Holy Teacher to dedicate some of our merits to them, right? But generally, in general, the more merits we have, then Holy Teacher can, it's like a bargaining chip, right? So Holy Teacher needs to have something to kind of negotiate and bargain with those karmic creditors, right? And those are the merits, right? So we have to have merits and virtues, and we have to be sincere. And of course, this is kind of our attitude, right? Having this repentant and grateful attitude, you can say, or mindset, and that will help too. I mean, that goes a long way as well, right? So these are important things. Okay, I think, yeah, I think we can probably stop here. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, okay, yeah, and of course we can transcend the cycle of birth, death, and also benefit our ancestors and potentially, let them also transcend with us. Okay, all right, yeah, we'll continue the rest of this next week. Okay, all right. If I had said anything wrong or unsatisfactory, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness and also asked transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you.